Audio Jungle. 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 Audio Jungle.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my rankings video. I hope I sound all right. I know the audio is always tough on Streamlabs, the app I'm using. All right, so I know there's going to be some latency where my stream lags behind me a bit, so what you'll be hearing will slowly stretch further and further out effectively. So right now I think the stream is only a few seconds behind me, and it potentially will progressively keep extending, I think, is how Streamlabs operates. I'm not 100% certain, but so it'll be tougher to get the live reaction of people. Basically, what I'm going to do, as you can see, I've got every generation of universe mode, every one. Now, let's establish a few things. The seat right here, this little icon, this is to indicate that they are currently in the Hall of Fame. In universe mode, Slim Reaper, of course, has been inducted twice. One as a singles wrestler, the other as a active wrestler. So we'll move from Generation 9 backwards all the way to 1, and we'll put them in each individual category up in here. I will type it out, and we'll slowly check off the box with this icon saying that they are done or they have been categorized. So let's get to it. That would just basically be breaking down where I stand on them. So let's go over the categories real quick. Jobber doesn't necessarily mean that they are solely a jobber. Like, a guy that's just used as cannon fodder for anybody who doesn't know the terminology of a jobber. This could also be a character that's just dead, like on arrival, isn't an effective character. People soured toward it. This is going to be gauged upon my own booking of the characters as well as where they stand now or how the fans kind of received them. It will be tougher to gauge how fans received them, in my opinion, for the lower ones. But jobber doesn't necessarily mean that they're a mockery. It's more so guys who just have failed on every front or just didn't work from the get-go, partially because of my fault and as well as the booking. Developmental will primarily be a lot of NXT guys, what you'll see. Basically, these are people that have the potential to grow and develop and become something, and there's just not enough data to truly make the determination of whether or not where they stand in the categories. Kickoff is more so people that are either just starting out or building themselves up or have been on the roster a while and just haven't worked, or you don't see them very often. They're kind of just fighting the hardcore title match. They'll get some feuds here and there, but they're not major players. Now, mid-card, you're going to see them more often. You'll probably see them winning singles titles, tag team titles. They're still going to be active, occasionally be in the main event matches, potential former world champions, but just haven't grown further. They're kind of just in that stasis. They're in that. Oh, yeah, you're right. Dax Debonair is not there. You're correct. Thank you, Panda. Thank you for that. I will put him there. That was a good eye. I totally forgot that name. If there's anybody else that I missed or isn't on the list, feel free to critique while I'm going through the list. Now, Rising Star. These can also be NXT talents as well. These people are either just being called up, are big stars in NXT, or they are on their way to the main event. They feel like they've got a rocket to their back, and they feel like they are rising through the ranks to become top-tier talents. So that has a lot more leeway on what can be done. Main eventers. These are people that are the must-watch talents, regardless of spots on the card. They are must-see. They are the main event. You'll typically see them in the world title fights, the big matches, the big shows. You'll see them all the time. They are consistently on the shows and have the focus put on them. Legends, I'm going to give a little more leeway to. They don't need to be top-tier talents currently. They can be active wrestlers. They can be retired wrestlers. The key thing and they can also be Hall of Famers. The thing to establish here is that they might not be as big as they were then, but it doesn't change the fact that they made an impression in the past. For example, one could still be wrestling. One guy that comes to mind would be, in the series, let's just throw out Kevin Owens. I know that I'm using Kevin Owens more so now, but if you looked at him through Season 5, I'd put him probably in the Legend class simply because he had such a big impact early on, but isn't really doing much now. That makes sense. He was a big star then, and when you see him in a match, he's still somebody to watch. Hall of Famers. These are people that are without a doubt distinguished amongst the rest. These people have truly exemplified and pushed the boundaries of universe mode and have made themselves icons. They've established themselves as megastars or just stars or legends in the series and have immortalized themselves in the hearts of fans. And this gets us to Trailblazers. Trailblazers, to me, are the people who've gone above and beyond. They're the elite category. I probably won't put many in this category, many names at all in this category, just because it's really hard to get into this class. These people don't need to be Hall of Famers, but key thing here is that they truly excelled this series, became must-watch talents in every single match. Every single match they had, you had to see. Regardless if it was just okay, they are that good. That's kind of how I'm trying to break down these categories. It's not like literally, oh, they're just a kickoff wrestler. Da 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 da. So we're going to start off with Generation 9 and work our way down. There will be a little bit of spoilers here because not everyone, obviously, almost nobody here has been introduced in Season 9 by name. David Perez has been mentioned. These two have been described as well as her. Olivia Falcon, for anybody that's not in the know, was the BCW interviewer, and she is still used in NXT. I just haven't been name dropping her in Season 9 yet. Isaac Steele, he is coming soon. I will rule him out immediately only because you haven't seen him on screen at all. I don't want to show him because he hasn't come up yet. So he doesn't count. He won't be on the list. We'll actually just gray him out because he doesn't count. Olivia Falcon has never stepped in the ring, but she has a personality. She's the interviewer. I'm going to gray her out as well, simply because we've only seen interviews of her. And from what I've described, Shayna Baszler has kind of pushed her around a bit, but nothing to where it has led to physical altercations or her stepping in the ring. So for that, I'm going to gray her out as well. They're not going to be counted on this list. Angel. So this is spoilers for anybody who doesn't, for anybody who has been watching the series. High Society. I'm going to be name dropping High Society now. So the 4 members in the core group, David Perez is the leader. West is the big man in the group. Mr. Expendable is the masked wrestler. And Angel is the female who's got her arms always around West. So, with that in mind, once again, it's a tough situation because they're finally getting into their first storyline, and it's with the Spanish Dragon. That's going to be building up to a future pay-per-view before they start potentially pushing forward. So for me, we haven't seen any of those 4 step into the ring yet, so it's really tough to gauge them. I might slash them as well, only because I want to give it more time, and I probably will do another ranking video after Season 9 is done, simply to show you where they might stand now or where I think they might be in the future. So for now, I think we'll just slash all of High Society for now, simply because there's just not enough data for me to really make a decision here. Now, Bundy. Bundy's case is he's had 1 match, he's debuted, and he even showed up at NXT, the most recent episode that I put out. He kind of confronted the NXT champion to warn him. I like the fact that he's got more of like an elite mentality, or his character. He's got this more sophisticated mindset. He's more tactical with his choices. I think these are good for the character. And I'm actually going to finally put him in the developmental. We're going to have somebody in that class. I think that there's still a lot to improve upon. We don't have much in terms of in-ring ability, simply because he was in a ladder match. So I don't want to really... there's not enough so far, but at least he stepped in the ring, and we don't know how well he'll perform in one-on-one situations or in those big high-profile matches. But he's out of the way. So we're going to go on to Generation 8. This might be high praise. Dax Debonair basically came in, had a feud with Finn Balor. I actually really liked the feud with Finn Balor. The match was good. Yeah, I agree. Bundy is a prospect talent. We'll see where he goes from here. Dax Debonair, it's tough to pick him because I want to put him on a high pedestal. He's not the best in terms of in-ring ability, but I think the character just works. The soapbox gimmick of standing up and kind of trying to tread the line between whether or not he's breaking the fourth wall or not of the series. Definitely tries to bring up the history of wrestlers, kind of trying to point out their faults regardless if they're good or bad. He had a flow of a feud with Balor. Then it flowed right into Johnny Rivers and Mike Kanellis, and now he's starting to finally work his way toward Mac Allen, who's the North American champion. I think so far Dax has had really good storytelling, really good build, really good hype to him, and I think so far he's been just decent in the ring, but they're entertaining matches because the character works. You don't need to be the best in-ring performer to really shine. So for me, I'm going to put him above developmental on kickoff simply because I know that I've kind of given a lot of leeway in terms of the names. Kickoff, I truly feel like I'd put this guy on the main roster, maybe not a champion yet. Well, if I brought him up now, it wouldn't. I think he could survive. I think he could swim, but he still needs more time in NXT to truly build himself up. But I think he's just above the developmental because he's got the character down. He's got the character. It works. He knows what he's doing, or the character works. It clicks. Spanish Dragon. He's had. Oh, hold on one second. And trust me when I say this, I feel like the further we go in, the harder it's going to be to categorize him. Spanish Dragon, he's had one match, and now if you've watched the newest episode of Season 9, it seems, and even the previous one, he's entering a feud with High Society. There's references that Spanish Dragon is a mantle passed down from generation to generation with his family. David Perez is his brother. And there's a feud there, or blood feud, where David wants the mask or the title of Spanish Dragon to just die and let it go. So this is him taking care of personal business before anything else. We haven't gotten much on Spanish Dragon. He's had one match. I don't think he's dead on arrival. I think he's developmental. There's not enough there yet. I want to see how this feud plays out before anything happens. I'm going to put him in developmental. I know that's some of these characters, you'll sit there and think, how are they on the same plane? Like Bundy, for example, I feel like has his character more so down than Spanish Dragon, but it's a broad spectrum when it comes to developmental. I think he's got potential, but he really needs to grow, except for Bundy. Like if there's a developmental plus versus a developmental minus, I'd put like Bundy as a plus and Spanish Dragon as a minus in that category. Arthur Rex is one half of the Ambassadors of Violence. I think they have an it factor about them that just works when it comes to it. I think that they had a good basic story. This goes to Miles Jacobs as well. The story is that Arthur Rex and Miles Jacobs used to be against each other in BCW. And then Arthur Rex and him had a fight in the ring. Rex broke Miles Jacobs' jaw, but Miles won the match. So it truly shows that how far Miles is willing to go, hence getting the name or the nickname Crossbones, and Rex as well showing how far he's willing to go to try to win a match. Both guys showing their grit. They had actually a really good match. I was really worried about going up against the big name tag team like the Hitmen. They actually did a really good job. They lost, but if you listen to the promo afterwards, I think Arthur Rex, as the speaker for the group, has cut good promos that have really tried to make them stand out. And I think they got a good moveset in terms of the tag team themselves. So for me, I think they're like Dax Debonair, where they have things down even though they haven't been in here long. So I'm going to put Arthur Rex and Miles Jacobs together. Despite Miles not even speaking, I think he's just got it working. So we're going to put both of them together, actually. Ty Noble. He is the current BCW heavyweight champion. I think this is another guy that has developed into kind of that kickoff guy that can be something. I think he needs a little bit more development. But I think Noble works. He's got Paul Heyman by his side. I think he's got a good moveset. I think put him with the right guy, and he can have a really good match. So I think it can work. Well, Kevin, you can always check out WrestleMania 8. I'll keep advertising it to you because that was fun. Um, so for me, I think I would put. I think I put Noble here. I think Noble has a lot of potential to grow and can keep growing, but I think he's got it down. I think there can still be more development, but I think his moveset flows, really flows, which works. And Will Madison, I don't know if anybody's seen the most recent episode of season 9, but what I will tell you is I think Madison and Ryan Trapp had a really, really good match. I think Madison puts on good matches with the right people. For example, Ty Noble and him was just good. I think him versus Ryan Trapp in this past episode was great. Even though he hasn't won a match yet, I think Madison has a lot of potential, and I like to see where it goes for him. But I think he needs a feud, something to really, or character development aside from just the match. Yes, you just saw my background. Pardon me. I accidentally hit the wrong button. Watch my whole life just got displayed there. Everyone's like, "Oh, cool, that's your background," and and my life. Regardless, I think I'm going to put Madison in the developmental. There still needed to be improvement for him. Tokunaga Shuichi. He's the manager for the Saito brothers. He hasn't won a match yet. I think he's 0-3. He's a manager. I think he gives them good grit, but I think he needs more development as a singles competitor. Well, my concern is that some of the tabs will have some information about myself. So, yeah. Oops. Devin Walker. His girlfriend is Alice York. He had an interesting introduction where he came in as a fan. EC3 picked him out in the crowd, and he came up and he fought him. He then had a feud with Daniel Bryan, short time, over the usage of his finisher, earned his respect. Devin's kind of been abused and used by the regime. I think he has character, but I think that this season he really needs to step out if he wants to be the man, so to speak, and really try to step up. So for now, I'm going to put him in the developmental because he needs more. But I think he has a lot of potential. Alice York, I think she's been in a lot of feuds. She's been in a lot of focus. She befriended Dakota Kai. She's been stuck in the feuds. The problem with the women is it always, and this is on me, it always kind of is more of a simplistic plot line. But she's been attacked more. I think her getting bullied by the regime and having an involvement in that storyline helps set her apart from some of the other women. But I'd still put her in developmental. I think that's where you'd see a lot of the women, only because it's my own fault on that one. I'll do the same with Maria. She's more of a brawler style. She's a heel. But there's not enough character. There's not enough character there. I think Alice York has more character, but she needs feuds. There needs to be better feuds. And yeah. Tyson Cage, there's not enough there for me. I put him in developmental as well. Can he improve? Absolutely. I think he can grow. I think he could be a good big man. The problem is there's just no character development. I think what saved him was putting him with Leo Rush and Shelton Benjamin. But nonetheless, I still think he doesn't have much to show for it. This brings me to the Saito brothers. I think they have good in-ring work. I think turning them heel worked better for them with Shuichi. The problem is execution. They've been dominant, they've been good, but no character development. So the Saito brothers together, I'm putting together simply to help. I don't have much room left. I only have like 4 spots left. And I don't know how many more people I'm going to put in here. Haruto Yamashita. Haruto is an interesting one. The son of Yuri Yamashita in the series. I think he's grown over time. He's gotten more character development. I like the mini story with Chris Hall last season, where Chris Hall and him have a feud, and Chris Hall beats down his father in a match. Basically, he hurts Haruto, and Yuri tries to defend his honor and pays the price for it. So there's going to be blood. There's going to be blood and hell to pay in the future, but just not right now. And I think Haruto, I'm hoping, can have more focus, but for now, I'm going to put him in the developmental. Ryan Schrapp. Ryan, I think from the get-go, might not have had the best look in terms of like the hair and everything. You're thinking, oh, it's just another guy. But I love the story. It wasn't a perfect flow, but you kick off with him having the narrative of him being fired from AEW because of his father's influence. Basically, he got drunk, quote unquote, at a party after his debut, and Jericho basically was like, "Hey, this guy's a drunk. He's an idiot." Guy turned 21, by the way. So he gets him fired. His father gets him fired. He has a monumental feud in NXT. Like, it literally became the center focus of all of NXT in season 8. But I loved the match with him versus Chris Jericho. It's not the greatest match you've ever seen, but it's an example of quick bursts and slow-paced match, and it just clicked. That was the feud he needed with Jericho. Jericho goes away. Trav kind of does other things, beats Chris Hall for the North American Championship, has a really good title reign, loses to Austin Arrogance, and then the feud with his father starts. His father wants to prevent him from ever achieving anything good in NXT. He doesn't want him to become a star. He doesn't want him to be a top-tier talent. He wants him to quit wrestling altogether. And you have a whole season where Marcus Trapp, his father, builds up this whole arsenal. And I know I don't have Marcus Trapp on here, even though he wrestled a match. It's just he's not. There's more to come with Marcus. So Marcus is more of a personality. He's not an actual performer. I'd put Marcus in his own category. He's like Triple H now at this point. He's more of an authority figure. You're not going to have him really step in the ring. As a character, Marcus is great. I like him. Ryan gets pushed into the Dynasty. Class Par sees a lot of potential in him, especially after losing EC3. He's trying to look for someone to replace EC3. Not exactly take on EC3's role, but to fill it out again with Austin Arrogance, so they become a trio. And then it becomes this faction warfare. The Dynasty recruits Noam Dar and Aiden English by the end of the season, and the regime picked up Jacob Knox, Jackson Wolf, and Bruce Bennett and Pete Dunne for a short time to really help make this a center stage focus. And you even intertwined Chris Hall, you intertwined Cole Quinn, you intertwined Mac Allen, Devin Walker. It felt like there was a massive narrative pushing NXT forward. And with that in mind, I want to put Ryan Schrapp in the Rising Star because he's now NXT champion. And he feels like he earned it, in my opinion. It feels like he's deserving to be there as the face of the brand because he was such a center focus and the storyline was so much fun to write. And the Dynasty got him over. That was the thing to get him over the hump. And it feels like no matter what he can do, this is what he needed to reach the next level. I think Ryan is a great example of someone who is breaking through and truly on his way to go places. So now we're on Generation 6. We're slowly getting to the legends of the series. Jackson Wolf, younger brother of the Hall of Famer Tyler Wolf, kind of dwindled around kind of dwindled around a lot in NXT. He's still there. That's not to say that he's bad. I think he's had more development in recent time from season 7 onward. The question is how much. He joined a heel faction. He turned heel, which is huge. Ran with that faction. I think Jackson's doing way better than if you told me. For example, he won the NXT title back in season 7 and then it got cashed in by Luke Harper. And I had a lot of people tell me he's not on that level yet. He's not ready. And I pulled that into the storyline where his older brother tells him, you got to find your own way. So Jackson wants to become a 2-time NXT champion, but doing it his own way. He focused on just winning the title in memory of his brother. So for me, I think Jackson has potential. I think his in-ring gear can evolve a little bit. His look can evolve a little bit to help amplify him. But I think the feud with the regime versus the dynasty touched a lot of people in NXT and helped them grow. So I think that Jackson Wolf belongs in the kickoff. I think he's growing. I think he's developing. I think he's looking better than he did 2 seasons ago. Way better. Holy crap. No way. Holy Hannah. The man, the myth, the legend, Samuel. Mr. Samuel. One of the greatest of all time. Wow. A man you will rarely see live. Wow, it is great to see you. Hope you're doing well. A shocker to say the least, in my opinion. Good to have you. We're almost to you. We still have a long way to go. But old school right here. Yes, sir. Hey, you wrestled a few matches, though. The OG. One of the original pillars of the series right here is live. Good to have you. Good to see you. It's fantastic to see you. I'm not trying to jump ahead, but Mr. Samuel, one of the most iconic characters in the series simply because of the end of his career. He still had a few matches after he retired. His character retired. But the maker of him, Mr. Samuel's our first ever Hall of Famer for good reason. And it's all because of that brilliant mind right there and allowing me to do a lot of creative freedom with him. I know I've used him several times after he's retired, but he's become an icon in the series. We'll get to Mr. Samuel in a bit, though. If you hang in there, you can see it live. Nonetheless, we're on to Johnny Rivers. Johnny Rivers, such a hard choice. Johnny Rivers, it feels like he's now getting some focus, but he's just not there. I don't think he's clicked. Yes, I'm doing it backwards. I feel like this is me roasting him or disrespecting him. That's awesome, man. I'm truly happy for you. That's fantastic news. And I hope you get through all of it, Samuel. I hope you stick around long enough to see the whole list through. It's an awesome pleasure to have you live. It's truly an honor. Wow. But regardless, Johnny Rivers, I don't feel like has clicked. I like the fact that so what I'm trying to do is put more focus on him and trying to accentuate his flaws. And to put this in perspective, fun fact for everyone, Johnny Rivers is actually the second creation of the guy who made Scott Cole. He made 2 characters, Scott Cole and Johnny Rivers, and you see the stark differences, the massive gap between how much effort he put. And that's not to say he didn't put any effort into Johnny Rivers. It's just I couldn't find something that stuck. He had the North American title reign, but it just doesn't feel like he's worked. He's getting some more exposure, some more screen time. We'll see how he goes in the future, but right now, it's just not happening. It's just not happening with him. So I feel like he's not a jobber as in, like, I know the jobber term or the jobber list is like, oh, you're pathetic, you're weak, you're limp, or you're not that good. That I've already described what the jobber list is. It's just a character that hasn't worked, it hasn't clicked, and it just hasn't gotten over with everyone. hasn't worked yet. That's not to say it can change. He can have a bounce back. But so far, for how many generations he's in, it's just unfortunate. Jack McKay. I don't even want to waste time with this. Jack McKay is a rising star to me. You can fight me on it. He's a big man. He's a big fighter. He had the it factor from the go. I think Alex is in class right now. But Jack McKay, to put this in perspective for everyone, he's a big man. He had this simple gimmick early on. He's a big man, hired gun. Pay him the right amount of money, and he will attack good guys. He'll attack bad guys. He'll do whatever it takes, whatever the mission is. You're seeing more of his character development. I don't know if anybody caught that, but I'm going to start weaving into the storyline. For example, in this past episode, AJ Styles, who hired Jack McKay to support him, wants to speak to him about what happened. But Jack McKay basically finally broke through and helped the dynasty on NXT. He helped them overthrow the regime. So I think we're starting to see the cracks in Jack McKay's personality coming through instead of just straight business. I think Jack, he's 20-0 for everyone, or sorry, he's 19-0 for anyone not in the know after all this time. So not only does the character look intimidating, he backs it up in the ring. He's a force to be reckoned with, and he's important. He's out of NXT now. He's potentially going to be full-time on the main roster. But I like to see, mostly because Marcus Trapp banned him from going back to NXT as a wrestler. Some of the people that he's beaten are, that I can recall off the top of my head, that we've seen are Jackson Wilkins, Christian Oxbane, Jacob Knox. He's also fought at WrestleMania. He fought Scott Cole. That might not have been a 5-star classic, but I'd still highly recommend you check it out. He fought Braden McLaughlin. I know he's fought some underlings. Apollo Crews happened in Season 8. We didn't see it. He fought Brock Lesnar and retired Brock Lesnar. That was actually a pretty decent match. Can't remember all the others. But the important thing is that he's got a streak going. And right now it's more than likely that he's going to feud with AJ Styles in the OC. We're going to stay tuned to hear all that, to see all that, because the feud's going to keep going in these audio-based videos that I'm doing. Because I'm going to stream every pay-per-view from NXT and the main roster this season. But what I'm going to do is just do audio-based, so segments, wording, they're important to build up these matches. And I'll try to do promos on the occasion. But Jack McKay, I think, is an obvious rising star with how good he is. Austin Arrogance is a no-brainer to me. I think this class exemplifies, or I think the class, or the Generation 6 is where we're going to start to get into people who are really growing. I think this class just clicks. No pun intended to Class Par. He is the direct protege of Class Par. And a man, here's the exciting thing. To me, Austin Arrogance is the protege. I have a constant problem in this series, and I'm going to name a few examples. Davis King and Matt King. Yuri Yamashita and Haruto Yamashita. And then you have Class Par and Austin Arrogance. You also have Tyler Wolf and Jackson Wolf. What do you think the commonality is? They're either siblings or they're protege of someone. It is very, very, very hard to step out on your own. I think Austin at first, I would have probably... This is hilarious to me, Panda, and I think you'll get a kick out of this. I'm thinking the same thing that I did when I first saw your character. This guy won't work. But the lesson that I learned from your character is, you know what? You don't want to give up on a guy. You don't want to literally just discard someone. And that's what I've learned over the seasons. You don't want to just give up on a character and just say, nah, screw it. He's not going to work. I'm done. You want to try to make it work, but you can't force people to like him. And I think Austin over the course of the season. He wore the chicken outfit in season 8 due to the regime's antics. He's slowly gotten over, became a 2-time North American champion, won the SmackDown Tag Team titles, won the NXT Tag Team titles, had a great showing with EC3. They put on some very good bouts. WrestleMania Season 7, the pre-show, their tag team title defense, highly recommended if you're looking for an emotional match for them. I think Austin has grown. I think he's truly stepped up into his own. And if you didn't see Extreme Rules, I think CM Punk and Yuri Yamashita have the nickname, they're the king of the Iron Man match. Although, I know Kyle O'Reilly's called Iron Man O'Reilly. CM Punk's moveset just works with an Iron Man match. I don't know why I do so well with him. I knew Punk was a safe play for Austin, and it worked. I think Austin is carrying himself as a champion, and his retirement match to Class Par was really, 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 really good. I liked it. Austin is a rising star, guaranteed. As long as I ball on him. Mac Allen. Oh, I'm torn. He's going to be mid-card to me. And I'll tell you why. Mac hasn't had the prime focus yet. I think I like the fact that he's defending the North American Championship. This is a title long coming to him. He broke out from the new Divine when they broke up, him and Chris Hall. Chris Hall turned heel. I think Hall has pushed the boundary further than Mac Allen at the moment. Mac is great. I haven't dropped the ball in terms of storytelling because Mac has always been kind of there. It's not like I've just made him disappear. He's always been either competing for championships or in the running for championships. He's finally got the title, and this is his opportunity to really start rocketing toward the top of the mountain. For now, I'm going to put him as mid-carder simply because he just isn't on the elite level. He's the cream of the crop, so to speak. He's one of the best in NXT. Just not the best yet. But he can be. He's got the in-ring ability. I think he's got the look. He's got the gimmick. He's got it down. He's got the it factor to me. Just needs 1 or 2 more title defenses. He needs this run to really determine. And then what's going to happen when he loses the title? Where is he going to go from there? That, I think, will be the turning point on whether or not he'll be a rising star or stand in the mid-card. Chris Hall, I think it's a close call. Again, but I think Chris Hall just works a little bit more. And I think the Joker versus Batman pun, so to speak, makes sense for these two. They need each other, and you're only as good as your villain. And Chris Hall and Mac Allen have been separated for quite a while, for good reason. I didn't want to do a Gargano and Ciampa feud like NXT did. I didn't want to overdo it. I wanted to keep them apart for now. I think when these two clash again, the emotion and the story will be there again. I really wanted to just take a break, let them breathe. I think Hall beats him out by a hair into the rising star simply because I can see Hall winning the NXT title very soon. He's right there on the cusp. Not simply because he's a great in-ring character, but also because he's just such a good heel. He's just a natural villain, and I like it. They had the tag team storyline. I think this can be a good focus for NXT this season. I think Hall is a true rising star. Jacob Knox. I would have put him here anyways on the kickoff over developmental after his feud with Jack McKay. I like the fact I probably would have dropped him down if I did nothing with him, but the fact that he's still good in the ring, he's still a great wrestler and a character. He's a natural villain. I like the fact that he and Wolf are a team now and are really rolling with the regime. I think it's good that Jacob Knox didn't fall off the grid. He's still doing stuff, and he's a decent character. So for me, Knox is in the kickoff. He's not in the developmental category. He works. He's not the best, and he's not the worst. and he doesn't need as much developmental. He still needs that kind of focus, that kind of spark to really get him going. Bruce Bennett, I'm probably going to put the whole regime in this category at this point. Or I actually just did. They're decent. I don't think Bruce Bennett, when I think of, for anybody not in the know, Bruce Bennett, Ace, came in through the Golden Sin faction. That was comprised of Sante as the leader. Sante is the leader. Alex Carter, the veteran. Then you had Bruce Bennett, the big man, and Ace, who was the high flyer. I think Bruce Bennett just isn't as good in the ring. Like, his moveset just doesn't flow as well as the other three. The other three are just naturally just click with their movesets. I don't know how, I don't know why. But he just feels like the fourth man that's just, it just wasn't as good. Ace and him didn't really get as much focus in the Golden Sins, but still found a lot of success. I think Ace was the standout performer of the two. I like the fact that I went back and did the feud, even though I didn't show it on stream. Bruce Bennett and Ace reignited their feud in NXT. Now Bruce Bennett works as a security guard for Tyler Wolf. A little character development because Tyler Wolf is a heel along with his younger brother Jackson. Jackson has affiliation with Bruce Bennett. So we'll see where Bruce Bennett goes from here. I think the call up to the main roster was too early and it almost killed him. Luckily, he's working his way back. Ace, without a doubt, not even a question, rising star to me. I think as long as I don't drop the ball with his storyline, I like the fact that I put him in the feud with the Hardcore Championship. Him and Lashley, the match at Extreme Rules is another great example. The match at WrestleMania was good. I think Ace is just an all-around consistent performer that knows what he's doing and is good at what he does. Just putting on good bouts. He's the underdog you can always root for. He's your Daniel Bryan. He's your next little babyface you can cheer for. And I think he just does that well as long as you keep putting up villains against him or trying to stack the odds against him. Now he's lost the NXT or the Hardcore Championship on Monday Night Raw, so we'll see where he goes on Monday Night Raw from here. This pay-per-view is a little bit of a breather for him, but we'll see where he goes. I'm excited to continue working with the Ace character. I think it's got potential to grow on Monday Night Raw. Cole Quinn. I'll tell you why. The problem is not the character. It's not the development of him or the progression. I think the booking is there. He's too hit or miss in terms of in-ring ability. You will have, I think, paired up in the right match and the right stipulation, you could pull off a really good bout. For example, him versus Sante Guerrero. Awesome. Him versus Bruce Bennett, it was okay. The sequel match I like better. But still, it was okay. Cole Quinn and Christian versus the New Divine, 5-star classic tag team match. Cole Quinn with the right opponent is great, if not awesome. But without a great opponent or without that kind of guy that can carry the character itself in the game to that next level, it's just not a good match. And the example that I can give is the NXT title match. They were having a great fight, and then I did a practice match. The practice was phenomenal. It was really, really good. It wasn't a 5-star, but it was like a 4-something. And then on the live stream, it's a dud because his overall is too low. I wish I could edit it. I wish I could boost it up, give him more resiliency. I wish I could edit his attire to really try different things with him. He's just too hit or miss for me. I'm not saying that he shouldn't or won't get titles in the main roster. Just saying that he works, he's good, but not phenomenal because of the game's hindrance upon him. On Asante Guerrero. He's a trailblazer to me. I think that is a lot of high praise. I'm giving him a lot of high praise here. He's not a Hall of Famer. But I think when he goes into the Hall of Fame, it's without a doubt. There was no doubt in my mind that he is one of the best. And I think this may seem like very extremely high praise because he doesn't have as many banger matches as other people who I might put in Trailblazer. But if you're talking about guys who from day one, clicked, worked, and delivered, Sante. Any bad match he has was just okay. Any great match he has is phenomenal. And his character flowed. He built up a faction around him in NXT, ran through NXT like hell. Stole candy from a baby, basically. Made it look easy. Goes up to the main roster, wins Money in the Bank, continues to show up as Money in the Bank, continues to have feuds, cashes in his Money in the Bank briefcase, has a record-setting title reign of 37 episodes, has a great match on a decent WrestleMania. Probably one of the best matches of the show at Season 7. Loses his title only because of Blake Daniels and Kevin Owens cheating to get Blake Daniels and Kevin Owens cheated to help get Blake Daniels his 4th world title reign. Then comes back, fights like hell to try to get the title back, doesn't get it successfully, but then turns his attention to Samuel Armstrong and fails. And for the first time, Sante has had multiple setbacks, and now it seems like he's entering a feud with Cesaro and Ono on SmackDown. Sante just has the aura of a trailblazer. I think the plan of the character, how we booked him, has just been consistent, and it's been a natural plane that makes sense, and he's earned his spot. I know that's really, really high praise for a guy who's only been in here since Season 5, but I truly believe he's a trailblazer, and he's not a Hall of Famer, but will be guaranteed no matter what. Jackson Wilkins and Christian Bane. I think Jackson and Christian Bane, they can break up. Would it be as good as the New Divine? I don't think so. I think Bane and Wilkins work as that long-term tag team, kind of like DI. Yes, you put them together, they gel, they work, they click. They're a great team. They've had hints of breakups. They've tried their own success. Not to say that they can't go out on their own success. I think this is a tag team where you can put them and win the North American Championship if you wanted to, with the right storyline, with the right booking, and you don't just make it out of nowhere. And if you do, you really got to work the storyline. Next Gen as a team, I think, works best as a mid-card team. I don't think they're rising stars, but I think that they flow, they work, they click. They do what they need to get done, and they're great at what they do. Simple as that. Clamp God. Dead on Arrival was never going to work, if I'm being honest. He hung around a little bit longer, still found the Hardcore Championship and the Raw Tag Team titles. It's like trying to replace Razor Ramon and Diesel. It just doesn't work. Slim Reaper was something else. He had the it factor, and trying to replace him with a cop-out is just bad. It's a massive error on my part, and it's a dead on arrival move. Character was killed. It had no chance, and that's due to me. I take full responsibility for that. On a side note, the guy wanted a change. Not to put all the blame on him. He wanted to change. He felt like Slim Reaper was too stale. It's his personal taste. I don't want everyone to berate him or be like, wow, you're such a horrible person for thinking that. He just wanted to make a change and thought that Slim Reaper had run his course, wanted him out of there, and wanted to change. So that was me trying to fill in. He wanted to fill in the void with somebody else because he didn't want to leave Road Killer hanging. I think that could have gone way better. I think just having him disappear without Clamp God would have been way better. Clamp God is a forgetful name. It's a not forgetful name, but a forgetful face. But he's remembered for the wrong reasons, which is a shame. He's remembered for being just that dud of a character, which is a shame. Jeff Sanders, without a doubt. I would have put him a lot higher in previous seasons. A long time ago, around season 4, I probably would have put him as a rising star. But he has lost it. I just don't think it. I think it's a combination of the moveset. I think it's a combination of the character has just not flowed. Partially because of me. Partially because of backstage antics. Nothing that's too severe. I just don't think the character has clicked well. Plus, losing to Harvey, I think, was a detrimental blow, despite how good the match was. Jeff Sanders was better at a time, then slowly has faded. MK and Assassin. I'm going to put them there as well. They don't have much in terms of character, but what they do have is in-ring ability, and they carry this kind of mystique where they're a force to be reckoned with in tag team wrestling. They almost have zero character, but they just work as a tag team. I don't know what it is. I think that they just flow, they work, and when you try to put them as single stars, it's kind of meh. It just isn't as effective as them as a team, and they just work as a team. I think that they do well. I think they could use more character development, but they're kind of just there. You'll see them win the titles. It's a good moment because their characters, there's not much character development there. And they're a nice team to see. It's a breath of fresh air from other teams. MK and Assassin just get their work done. They fight, win titles, and leave. I think that's a simple mentality. Not trying to roast them or anything. I just don't think I've put in the care for them, which is a shame. It's on me. Prince Metallico. I think if you asked me before I brought him back where he would be, I would probably say mid-card talent. If you asked me where he would probably be when he won the Rumble, I would probably say rising star. After the feud with AJ, after the story of Season 8, I think Prince Metallico is a main eventer. I think when he steps into the ring, you know it's an important match. Yes, I agree. They never became their own characters. Prince feels like a main eventer now. It feels like when he is in that top billet, he deserves to be there. It feels like when he's on any other spot on the card, your eyes are still drawn to him. He might not have the resume of phenomenal matches, but he is a great character in the ring. He slowly got more development, not in terms of history or background, but I like the fact that AJ kind of made the focal point about his mask. Because if he strips away the mask, he strips away what makes him unique. A man who's never taken off his mask. And kind of exposes him. So I think the Prince truly has become a king among men with the title reign and the success he's had. I think I can still do more. I'm excited to see what he can do on SmackDown because, well, he and Kyle O'Reilly are still trying to get that WWE title shot. And I think Generation 4 is a perfect example of where we start getting back into trios. If you've noticed, I think every other generation or all these generations that we've covered up this point, it's hard to pinpoint a core 3. I think Sante, Ace, and Next Gen are probably the core 3 of Generation 5. It's hard to determine Generation 6 right now. Generation 4, it's easy to me. Scott Cole, Blake Daniels, and Prince are probably the standout 3. Generation 3 has their core 3. Generation 2 and Generation 1, to me, have their core 3. Blake Daniels, I think there is no doubt in my mind. If there is a plus category, he is there. He is there. If there is a plus category for main eventer, he's like on the cusp of being a legend. I think Daniels needs that final kind of push to reach that legend status. He's not there yet, but he's a step up from Prince Metallico. He's been in the main event a while. He's had the success. He turned heel. And let me tell you something. He's become a phenomenal heel. I mean, if we're going to talk about his heel turn alone at the end of Season 7, he won the Intercontinental title, held it for 10 episodes, is a 2-time Raw Tag Team Champion, held them for 19 episodes, and I believe he's in the top 10 in Raw Tag Team title reigns at this point. He also got his 4th world title as a heel. I think he works as a heel and as a face. The problem is, as a face, he's too much like Kevin Draco. He's just that white meat baby face, and as a heel, he's gotten more freedom. It's like an extra shot of juice in the arm where you just feel like, oh yeah, oh, he's got that edge. Like, ooh, he's different now. I like it. He's got that cool kid factor. And I like the pairing with him and Kevin Owens. Owens is pretty much done as the top tier main event talent, but Blake Daniels certainly isn't. Blake Daniels just feels like that guy that's fighting over the tag team titles, but in a heartbeat, if he just decided, you know what, I'm going to go for the world title, people will be like, absolutely go for it. Like, no complaints. He's going to get cheered as a face. He's going to get cheered as a heel. Either way, he's entertaining. Blake Daniels works. And I think the only thing missing for Blake Daniels is tenure in the series. To be that legend status. He continues to win titles. He continues to find success. There's without a doubt he's going to be a Hall of Famer at this rate. But to me, he's that main eventer plus. Scott Cole, a man who truly feuded with Blake Daniels. Blake Daniels' second major feud in his career that's memorable. Him and Scott Cole had some really good bouts. Scott Cole ended Blake Daniels' career in NXT, and I believe Scott Cole, up to the point where he lost the NXT title the second time, had never been pinned. He was pretty much bulletproof. I mean, if you're going to talk about powerhouses and forces to be reckoned with, he might not have the size and stature like Harvey and Jack McKay, but Scott Cole was a horrific force to face in the ring. No pun intended. I absolutely love this storyline. The maker of the character sat down with me. We planned out how he was going to take off his mask. We really tried to add some lore to the series, and we tried to add so much more depth in Season 7 with his character. Yes, it is my fault for kind of benching him, but I didn't want him to eat useless losses and lose his mystique. He's got the mask off now, but keep in mind at WrestleMania Season 8 when he fought Jack McKay, the story is that he got his eye banged up, torn up. So we will see where he goes from here. I am still trying to figure that out. I have a few concepts of where I'll go with his character, but I think everyone should be warned because he might bring back the edge that he had previous, just not with the mask. But Scott Cole, without a doubt, is another one of those main eventer pluses. He is the longest reigning world champion. Universe mode, he just works. He oozes the talent, and I will never forget his run all the way up to when he lost the championship. That whole season arc where he won the briefcase, or 2-season arc where he won the briefcase in Season 5, cashed in on Matt King at WrestleMania, held it for almost a full season straight, lost it to Davis King. Regardless of how people feel about the Davis versus Scott Cole match, Scott has the it factor. Hunter Woods. I feel like if he had more time, he could have been developmental. I feel like he would be in the plus category for Jobber. And but Hunter Woods, let's keep this in mind. If you're talking about big man, Hunter Woods is the definition of big man. I think with slightly better booking, it could have been better for him, but he was just so hated. Hated so horribly. I just don't think. And he was a white meat. He's like the more muscular version of Tyson Cage, except Tyson Cage has kind of been through the rungs of NXT, kind of worked his way up. Hunter Woods was blitzed to the main roster, which immediately gets you scrutiny. I mean, you're not going to win anybody any favors if you go right to the main roster and you're just a stereotypical jock meathead and don't have the character development. So, Hunter Woods would be in the Jobber Plus category to me. Of just, meh. He could have been something, but no. Braden McLaughlin, I think he's a step up from Jeff Sanders. I think he's got the big man mentality down, and he feels like more of a threat than Jeff Sanders. We'll just do McLaughlin because it's a long name. McLaughlin, if I can spell properly. I think his character's come a longer way. I think him turning heel was much more effective. His first two runs sucked. They bombed. Yeah, right. He was Hunter Woods was just another big guy in a dominant faction that nobody could get anything from, aside from the guys who were in the faction and who would topple the faction. That was pretty much the only people that truly benefited from the feud. Well, I think the two who truly, or the only person that truly got anything out of that faction was Jamie. McLaughlin, I think, is a natural heel magnet. I don't think he's there. I don't think he's ready for becoming world champion yet. I think he could use another heel storyline plus a heel title run in the mid card. I think he's got the potential. He's there to become a bigger heel magnet. I think he's got the natural heel heat that just works. I don't know why people just get agitated with him. And it makes me want to just keep treating him fairly well on the main roster, not pushing him too hard down everyone's throats, kind of keeping him there in the threat zone of maybe getting a world title shot in the future. I think he works. I think it works well with what he's given. Luther Richards. God. Needs improvement. He didn't have enough time. He was in the faction, or the faction with Hunter Woods, the Kings of Wrestling, was comprised of Harvey, Colt Lee, Alex Carter, Luther Richards, Hunter Woods, and Jamie, I believe was the amount that came up. But Luther Richards and Alex Carter, Luther Richards just felt like the worst, or the lesser of the two. He had the cool mask and the cool look, but he just didn't have the in-ring ability that Alex Carter had of the tag team. And then Richards didn't come back, kind of severs that tie, and he never truly got anywhere. So for me, Richards just is a developmental guy. If I brought him back, he would be developmental. It wouldn't feel like a massive threat. Alex Carter, though, his counterpart, that is without a doubt a mid-Carter. That's not to say that he can't break into the rising star. I think he's on the cusp of being a rising star. Alex Carter has the story of Universe Mode. If you watch, this was truly a test of how is the man going to go from here when his tag team partner lost. He comes back in with Claspar and Ross Young. He gets a job in NXT, wins the Cruiserweight title, wins the UK Championship that I retired. and then formed the heel faction, the Golden Sins, with Sante Guerrero as the veteran of NXT next to Ace and Bruce Bennett. So he's seen as the veteran of the group, the grizzled veteran that might not be a big muscular man, but he's um, but he's but he has the veteran experience in NXT to quote unquote train them or guide them and help be that rock for Sante. And it translated over. Got a world title shot against Sante Guerrero. Burned the house down with a great match at WrestleMania Season 7. Formed an alliance with Drew McIntyre on the main roster and now is the SmackDown Tag Team Champions. What I will tell you is this. I think Alex Carter can be a star. He's a phenomenal in-ring character. The character just has a natural flow in the ring that works. I'll never forget, he carried the match with Tyson Cage to be a good match. Carried it. Alex Carter, if he can carry a white meat character with no experience, nothing, that tells you a lot about the guy. And if you just watch his matches after the British Invasion tag team broke up, he's just keeps getting better. I like his matches. I like using him in the game. He's just such a good character to use. And plus, if you watch his history over the seasons, you can kind of sympathize with his character, the slow grind to go to the top of the mountain and get back. Max Webb. He just came back, and it seems that he's being involved with Davis King. We're going to see where he goes from here, but he would be kickoff plus for me. He's just slowly downgraded. We'll see where he goes with this character that he's bringing in for Season 9 and his involvement with Davis King. But as of right now, kickoff guy. He's had really, really good matches. At WrestleMania specifically, he's had some very entertaining fights. Not much in terms of character, was kind of the superhero gimmick, just didn't click. And right now it seems that he's trying to find a way to rejuvenate himself. I love to see where it goes, and I want to keep writing it to find out where I wind up with him and where all of you wind up thinking he belongs. That brings me to Jamie. Too easy. That's a main eventer plus. That man is on the cusp of legend. He is one of the 3 men in Universe Mode history alongside Blake Daniels and Class Par to be Triple Crown World Champions. Max Webb was over at one point but faded. Jamie doesn't need to be at the top of the card to be great. He is great. He just is great wherever he is. I like him with Tommaso Ciampa right now. And if he once again turned on the dime and said, I'm going to go to the main event and fight for a world title, I don't think anybody would object to it because he's earned his spot there. He's earned his spot to be on any spot of the card. As with the right story, or even if it's a number 1 contendership match and he wins, you take a look at Jamie and it's like, yeah, he's a main eventer. Why he wouldn't be anywhere else? That's kind of the topic. That stems from he was treated as Vince McMahon's golden boy in that heel faction. He put Blake Daniels on the map. He had a phenomenal match with Johnny Gargano in NXT. He just had so many good runs, whether it was as the champion of NXT, as the WWE champion where he held it for 33 episodes, or whether he even had that short stint in Season 7 where he won the world title. Nobody complained because he was like, it all made sense. Him winning the title, everyone's like, yep. I mean, that match was so star-studded, everyone was like, I mean, who else would win? Maybe not exactly that, but you get what I'm saying. The guy belongs at the top of the list no matter where. And yes, he's involved with the tag team titles right now. No complaints. Slim Reaper, the 2-time Hall of Famer, is tough to gauge because he's sort of an enigma. I think what I'm going to do is put him twice on this list. Hear me out. I'm going to do Road Killer and him at the same time. I don't think this can be disputed by people on this list or who see this video and understand why I'm going to put them as a group as the Trailblazers. As a unit, they were the first ever custom tag team wrestlers. Not only that, but they delivered. I mean, you're talking main eventing NXT takeovers with the tag team titles, having stellar matches with DIY, 3 classic bouts. They might not be as phenomenal as we remember them to be, or one of them I think had bad internet quality, but every single fight with them was must see. The Revival was an alright match, Sanity was alright. They had you can watch my 2-part series where I cover their first run from season 2 to season 4. Absolutely stellar work. I mean, no matter what, even if they have a bad match, they look like bona fide superstars. Plus, you had the amazing, I appreciate everyone having such an eruption and ovation. The creator of Slim Reaper gave me the green light to bring him back in season 7. And here was my concern, like people might not receive him or want to have him have more runs with belts. And everyone has been so warmly receiving of him. They had the run with the Raw Tag Team titles, and right now they're co-champions. Slim Reaper with the US, Rogue with the world title. The tag team is just so fantastic, and because people are just so receiving of him, it's able for me to have flashback to the 3 to 4 part episodes where I would get frustrated on stream a lot. But as a team, they are just the it factor. And plus, I think the Ambassadors of Violence match at NXT TakeOver this past TakeOver was actually really good. I was really worried, but it actually turned out really well. It wasn't 5-star, but it was really good. But the Hitmen as a team, phenomenal. As individuals, I think Slim Reaper goes in the legend status. I think he's a legend, not a Hall of Famer. He's a 2-time United States champion, 1-time WWE champion. This run is to truly help. And the character story that I'm running with this is that he wants to feel like he's earned that solo ring, the induction of himself. And I think he's trying to earn that in terms of the character, and I like that part where this run is trying to focus on him earning that second or his first ring when he retired and was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Retired prematurely, had a career-threatening injury. I don't think he's on that elite level as alone. I think he's working toward that as being that legend. And when you watch him, you just know that it's either going to be a good match or a great match. It might not be the match. I mean, his versus Orton was okay. I mean, if you watch the WrestleMania matches with him versus Cole Lee, and even the triple threat match, amazing work with at season 8. Really good matches. I didn't expect much, but holy cow. Put him with the right men, put him in the right match, and it works. Road Killer, I think in of itself, this is a nod above just because his story never stopped. His story never truly ended. And I think if you, before this second world title reign, before this main roster, or this main push to get the second world title reign, I probably would have just put him as a main eventer. Not to say that Slim is better than Road Killer in any way. I'm not having that debate in terms of in-ring ability. Rogue is the big man powerhouse. His story never quit. His story continued to flow. From the time he was in the Hitmen, segued right into the Bullet Club storyline for 2 seasons. Broke off, went out on his own, and started winning championships, finding success. I think Road Killer has just that it factor, and reuniting with Slim Reaper helped prolong and get more life out of his character together. So for me, Road Killer is just in that legend status alone, separated from the group. I think it's tough to call with Slim Reaper. But Road Killer, I think, is just that far above and beyond. He hasn't had the match quality as a single star that some of the other guys below him do, but just the story from day one when he came in, I think it could go either way. I think this is one of those parts of the list where people are going to be like, maybe, all right, I guess. Probably lower. But yeah, I think that's where the debate is going to go. James Arlington. Hear me out. I think this is a fair. I think this is a fair one. I think this reign is what's going to lean him toward main eventer. I think he's a rising star plus. I don't think he just edged in a rising star. I think he's just on the outside looking in at being the main event guy. I think this reign, this storyline in season 9 is really going to determine if he falls short or rises over the top. I think I would have put him in the rising star and mid card throughout his whole career, probably just between these two. Dancing between them. He's always kind of had that it factor. He feels like an elite wrestler when you watch him. He's had great matches, and he typically winds up carrying some matches where it's just him and you just want to watch him beat the crap out of somebody. His match versus Kevin Draco, him winning the Rumble, it truly feels like he's not the main event guy, but he's still one of the top guys. I feel like he belongs on that list. All right. So now we go to Kevin Draco. He had the injuries. But this is a tough one. So for Draco, he came in and had a stellar match. He was supposed to come in as a heel when he first came in, but he had such a great match with Kurt Angle that he got over with the crowd. He had a mythical kind of run in NXT. It wasn't the greatest run, but it was mythical in how the stories played out with him versus Samoa Joe. And I think myth is the best, might be one of the best words for it. It's become a very memorable run and probably one of the most memorable impressions by people in terms of first match, first time in. And Draco, through the injuries of having his character's neck broken twice, has allowed him to get way more life out of his character. I think at times he should have been in the main event of WrestleMania. We're very close. And main eventing season 8 has felt more like a finally for people. Like this man is deserving of that main event status. Because it's more like a nod that yes, he is, but he's always been. He's always felt like either a rising star, main eventer, or even a legend. I don't know if I'd put him in Trailblazer. I feel like he is over the hump at this point. Even though it's so weird, because even though he's been in there for so long, it feels like he's just so young in his career. I don't even know how. Maybe I'm alone on that, but it just feels like he's got so much more to give. Even though like he's been around since season 2. It's a weird feeling, but I'm gonna put him in a legend. Even though it just feels like his character's got so much gas left in the tank left. Draco, I believe, is a legend to me. Undoubtedly going to be a Hall of Famer in the series. As a memorable character, I think he's either a legend or a Hall of Famer. It can certainly be debated on where he'd fall in these top 4 categories with people. Nathaniel. I think mid card's fair. I think coming back and having that reinvigorated character helped fix him. The world title, to some people, felt undeserving. I think that he still needed the reign. I don't think he's hit that elite level, but he's got room to grow, and it's not like he's a dud or on the downfall. I think he's on the rise and can continue to rise at this rate if it's well executed. He's out on a suspension, I believe, because he lost the title, and that was one of the stipulations. Lost the title to Rumble, missed WrestleMania, and we'll have to see where he goes from here. But for now, I think he's a fair mid-carder. I think. Davis King. I think, Nathaniel's an example of a guy who fell off the grid and came back, which is good. I like the fact that I'm resuscitating him. But Davis King, what a pickle I'm in. Davis is a weird one because on one hand, he's got the tenure. He's got the accolades. And he's got some matches under his belt that were really good. I mean, even the main event WrestleMania match, I can't fault him for putting on a fairly good match at WrestleMania. Like when the chips were down, he didn't suck. He was good. But I feel like good is as far as he's gotten. And main eventer doesn't mean that he is a main eventer, like legitimately right now. It just means like where his status would be. I think he isn't a legend, but he still feels like he's got the tenure to be considered. Like if he went to the main event, you probably like now people would probably look at him and see that I'm doing storylines with him or still trying to use him. Maybe not so much. Certainly then he was like actively in Bullet Club. It was a great run. Just it wasn't. He's never been over, which makes it hard to gauge. I think I would put him as a main eventer minus. Like he feels like he pales in comparison to these four with him, but he's got the tenure over them. It just feels like he's one of those last pillars kind of standing, if that makes sense. Like one of the older generations still kicking and still going. So you almost like you don't expect him to be the world champion, but you understand and acknowledge that he is a veteran of the series and has put in the time. Raymond Cruz, main eventer. He falls short to me of being a legend simply because he's way, 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 way too stop and go. Way too stop and go. Anytime that he would start getting a push, it just dies. It just doesn't feel like he's there all the time. And when he leaves, he's gone for a long time. And when he comes back, it feels abrupt. He hasn't had a steady flow for a long time. Partly it's because I never got the creation for him, or it would be a long time, or because I didn't know what to do with him. So it's a mixture of a lot of different things. And it just has resulted in him just being there. He had some really good rivalries with Class Par, but just had a really good Hell in a Cell match early on in the series. Early on in the series, he's definitely memorable for it, and he worked his way up to being a main eventer because of his tenure early on and how he was booked early on. But now I don't think he hits that legendary status like some others do. Class Par. And I'll tell you why. He's the perfect example of never giving up on a gimmick in terms of booking and writing. And he's a perfect example of finding ways to evolve the character in good ways to keep him engaging and keeping him intriguing. The guy didn't stop being entertaining. He had some lulls early on and some setbacks in terms of the booking or the match quality that really made you think like, oh, like, is he going to be buried? Are they just going to? Certainly early on, it's like I had the mentality of it's not going to work. Nobody's going to get behind this. Kind of accidentally won the NXT title. Didn't book it well, fumbled that. But once he got to the main roster, it felt like there was more of a plan with him. There wasn't much of a plan at times in season 3 and 4 at times. But then it just slowly, but he kept naturally climbing up the ladder. It felt like he was slowly working his way up. His gear got better and better. But then when he came back in season 5 with the Master Mafia kind of gimmick, never looked back. Never looked back. I mean, he had a match with Sting for Pete's sake and didn't let that stop him. Built up the Dynasty faction, had this complex, kind of intricate story for the final 2 seasons of his career, for season 7 and season 8, and now he's a manager for the Dynasty in season 9. The guy is a trailblazer in terms of a career, blazing your path, one of the 3 Triple Crown champions, one of the few Grand Slam champions in Universe Mode, the number 2 all time in terms of episodes as a champion. He just is the it factor. He's had so many iconic matches, from Raymond Cruz to Matt King, the trilogy of the Matt King series. The trilogy with Matt King, Elimination Chamber matches, WrestleMania matches, fighting the Streak, fighting Brock Lesnar, even though that's a very long bout, and certainly just playing on emotions. That's besides the point. Having some great, phenomenal end, an end I wish I gave myself and Draco, an end with Austin Arians, a pretty decent match, but could have been so much better with Prince Metallica. Just found ways to be iconic and be the man. I think he's a trailblazer. Ross Young, legend. I think he would be in the bottom half of the Hall of Fame career. He could have been so much more. And it's mostly my fault. Pretty much a lot of it is my fault. I really, really dorked up in season 3 at the end. I really screwed him out of the title. He should have, if I controlled the Royal Rumble, he's the biggest, he might be one of the biggest what-if situations in WrestleMania. Ross Young, to me, probably should have won the Royal Rumble of season 3, not Goldberg. Ross Young versus Johnny Gargano sounds like a much better match for the main event of WrestleMania, even though Gargano might not have earned it. I'm just saying, the match didn't suck, but he is one of those biggest what ifs where you wish things turned out differently for him, because it feels like that was his moment, and then he got screwed, and then even though he got a world title reign again, it just didn't feel the same. It's like he didn't have the spark anymore, and he just lost it. And to me, it's mostly due to my own fault, and I take full responsibility for it. But Ross, I think, falls short. Cole Lee, I don't think he's a trailblazer, but I put him in that Hall of Fame class. He's not a Hall of Famer, obviously, right now, but the man is a guaranteed Hall of Famer. I don't think he's a trailblazer. I think he falls short of that simply because he basically bypassed NXT. His NXT tenure was shorter than mine. and even Generation 1s. It was very, very, very short. I think it was like one pay-per-view and was just boom onto the main roster into the world title match at WrestleMania. It was quick. But Cole Lee from then on has just had a legendary run by winning 5 world title reigns, multiple United States title runs, Raw Tag Team title reign. Definitely one of the best heels of all time in Universe mode, without a doubt. And even was a pretty decent early on babyface, but just ran with the heel gimmick. I mean, when he shows up, he's still wrestling, of course. When he retires, guaranteed Hall of Famer. But when he's on the card, you just know that it's going to be either a good or a decent match or a phenomenal match. I'll never forget the iconic match with him and me in the main event of WrestleMania Season 5. It felt like he reached the pinnacle despite what happened in Season 3. I think he had a great match with Raymond Cruz. He had a fantastic match with Slim Reaper this season, despite not being on the main card. Just an example of a guy who's clicked with so many people, has had so much success, has had great matches with Class Par, Samuel Armstrong, and so much more. Even though nobody wanted him to fight Armstrong at that WrestleMania, still put on a good match. It was good for what it was. Didn't have the spark as the other streak matches, but Colt, without a doubt, is a legend in my eyes. And a Hall of Famer. Harvey. Oh, it was really forced. Don't sugarcoat it, Panda. It was forced. It's tough to choose. Harvey. Where would you go? I'm hesitating because I feel like it can be debated on where he'd be. I think Harvey is a Hall of Famer. I'm torn between Trailblazers simply because he was such a heel. Such a genuine heel. I mean, a natural heel. I think it can be debated very strongly for him to be a Trailblazer. I think he's either a Hall of Famer or a Trailblazer. Such a great career up till his retirement match, quote unquote, big air quotes. In Season 4, that was just, ugh. But he came back, had the great match against Adrian Galerto, had the even better match against Yuri Yamashita at WrestleMania Season 5, came back to feud with Class Par in Season 6. That turned out really well. And then had the great feud with, he came back again in Season 7, completely shut off from the fans. Not many people liked the fact that he was champion, lost the title, and then immediately flipped the coin. I can't remember what I said in that promo, but it flipped the dime. And once he set his focus, once that Scott Cole versus Harvey feud sparked up, it was like he was completely reinvigorated again with the investment in his character. And it felt like that was such a more fitting end, with Scott Cole being free of his curse and Harvey finally getting kind of that, I don't want to say end that he deserved, but the villain, because he's had his comeuppance, but he had the phenomenal or the really, really good match to go out on. And I think, even though I know Panda and among others will probably say this when you watch the match, Scott lands the spear. I had people tell me that that should have been the finish. It felt like a true blast from the past in that moment, an out-of-body experience where you're just like, oh, it's a reference to Mr. Samuel and his legendary match at WrestleMania Season 3. And I think Harvey can be debated either way. I think he's a Hall of Famer, if not a trailblazer. But I'm going to put him a Hall of Famer simply because him just consistently coming back just kind of... But he is the epitome of a villain in universe mode. Such a great job as a heel. The elite when it comes to heels in universe mode. And now we're on the final generation after almost 2 hours of all of this talking. I didn't expect it to take this long. I thought it would be a really quick thing, but no, I've stretched it. You could honestly just go to the end. Adrian Galerto. He's a veteran, doesn't feel like a Hall of Famer or a legend yet. Like he's fallen just short of that status. He's like Davis King in my mind. They have the tenure, they just haven't had as much success, which kind of hinders them from being on that next level, breaking through and just reaching the legendary status. I think he's just on the outside looking in of being a legend in the series. He's had great matches for sure, but I don't think he's there yet. He's got the tenure, which makes me put him at main eventer. Yuri Yamashita. He wasn't a world champion aside from once, and he didn't even defend it, but with the context of his U.S. title reigns and how good he was in the ring, I'm putting him as a Hall of Famer. I'm putting him on par with Harvey and Colt Lee. And that's a lot of high praise. But keep in mind, when it came to Generation 1, a lot of Generation 1 and 2 early on didn't have much character development. You weren't looking... When it came to the first 3 generations early, you didn't see... Well, first 2, you didn't have much development. What you saw is kind of what you got. Adrian was the Latino wrestler of the group. Yuri was the Japanese wrestler of the group. But they had contrasting styles. Yuri prioritized that kind of grappler style where Adrian was the high flyer. And Yuri just always either made a diamond out of a match when you didn't expect it. Like, he had a 5-star, like a phenomenal match with CM Punk to win the NXT title. I think he helped establish the prestige of the NXT Championship along with Tyler Wolf early on, and just was just good in every situation. He's 4-0 at WrestleMania. I liked what he did with Chris Hall. It wasn't a 5-star classic, but I liked that feud where he came back and did that. I think he could have one final send-off match, although I do think the Harvey match was a great send-off there as well. I think there's just a tiny bit more to give for Yuri to just milk out of if I wanted to milk it dry. But I think Yuri is one of those guys who was just the epitome of the best of the mid-card. A guy you could rely upon if you wanted to give him the strap. I think he is one of the biggest misfires of me not putting the strap on him a second time, or if not, just a longer world title reign. It is unfortunate, and I regret it. It is another one of my biggest regrets. But Yuri, I believe, is a deserving Hall of Famer. Tyler the King Wolf. My. One of the 3 original pillars of the series. Where to put you? The first ever NXT champ. It could be so easy to just say he's a trailblazer. Like him, Mr. Samuel, and Matt King as the trailblazers because they were the first. They were the first NXT Tag Team Champions, the first ever NXT champion. That would be an easy layup to just sit there and say that. Plus, they are the original pillars who came in before this series even existed. It is so easy to sit there and say that. I think Tyler, who's constantly come back to wrestle, competed against Kyle O'Reilly, had a decent match. We're getting into the fabled legends of this. These are truly, if you're going to talk about fabled legends of the channel, these 4 right here are the fabled legends. That when when the people who've watched the series for a long time talk about him, and people who are new are like, really? All right. But when you watch it back, they had some iconic match. Yeah, the Iron Wall, the greatest name of all time. I prefer the original Pillars. I think that's such a more fitting name for the three of them. Like, these four guys started it, and to me, and truly the two guys that gave me the characters, I think it's fitting that they're here live. The two guys that were the very first people to entrust me with their characters, and I try not to fail them. Although the three of us might not have had as much success in terms of a bunch of other people in the series in terms of accolades, you can't dispute the importance of how they started. I think Tyler Wolf was a trailblazer. I think he was a trailblazer for the main event. I think he set the bar for the status quo. He was the standard bearer of the main event of NXT and what it needed to be. It's not to say he didn't have bad matches as NXT champion, but he set the bar. He was a three-time world champion. Unfortunately, his two reigns ended either because of injury, because of the feud with Triple H, or because of a really short run that was cruel and horrible. But his third run, his Intercontinental title run, I like them both for what they were. I love the triple threat match at WrestleMania Season 4. I liked his Kyle O'Reilly match. I like him as the GM of SmackDown, a trailblazer in the bar being set in universe mode in terms of what the main event needed to be or what it could have been. And I think he delivered. That's my thought on it. I mean, AJ beat Undertaker at WrestleMania 2, but let's not talk about that. Mr. Samuel. I think if you told me, or if you asked me who was the better or the worst out of the three original pillars in terms of in-ring ability, overall, I would tell you Mr. Samuel. Harsh words, I know. Hear me out, though. I could not think of a time where he had a phenomenal match, a 5-star classic, before Season 3. He kind of just floated around and existed in Season 2. He didn't feel like he was getting pushed. Season 3 was the beginning of where he was really starting to rise and really starting to do stuff. And he has that fabled legend of Universe Mode where he's the first Hall of Famer. You go out in a blaze of glory. You go out on top of the mountain and you sit there and say, what if he won? I truly believe the Mr. Samuel character has that fabled tale of establishing the fact that any one of us yeah, this man was the worst of us. In terms of in-ring ability, in terms of how he went out, I think he had the best way to go out between the three of us. And I think encapsulated what everyone caught what I think fans dream of when they think of a retirement match. Like, if there's a way to go out, if you're trying to put it lightning in a bottle and get that Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels 1 match, I think he got that, except in this case he retired. He got the match. He got the retirement match. The stipulation of his retirement being on the line against Harvey. It established Harvey as a massive heel in the series, and it truly made Mr. Samuel. And then Mr. Samuel came back, wrestled Scott Cole, and delivered another fantastic match. Then had the triple threat match. You didn't see him for a long time. And then he showed up in the Royal Rumble and even competed at the last Survivor Series in a meh match. It was more so a match of his quality of the olden days. I don't like overusing Mr. Samuel simply because I don't want to wear out the name. What Mr. Samuel did, though, was be given a mantle of setting the bar of what a WrestleMania match can be. What stakes can be. What a character can do. How to elevate them. I think Mr. Samuel, this is me trying to have an argument with myself on why he should be in either category. I think debatably he can go either way. First tag team champion with me, but we weren't great tag team wrestlers. We weren't a phenomenal tag team. We were just kind of okay as a unit, and Mr. Samuel was just okay until season 3, I think, is when he truly became an icon. And for that, I just don't know. I think I'm going to put him in Trailblazer. Just because he set the bar on the ending. He set the bar on what a WrestleMania match can be. Delivered the greatest WrestleMania match, arguably, of this series. I mean, if you watch it back now, it's tough to get that first high, so to speak, when you're in the moment and you're watching that retirement match and you just don't know who's going to win and you don't know who's going to lose. And unfortunately, they deleted the comments for that video. But it was just so hair-raising. I had goosebumps the whole fight. Trying to do the match, I was on the edge of my seat, and it just kept getting better and better, ticking all the boxes. It had the emotion, it had the weight. That was a WrestleMania-worthy feud, and it was arguably a main event of WrestleMania-worthy feud. And to go out like that in a blaze of glory, and yeah, he came back, had a phenomenal match with Scott Cole, did a fan service match, 2 fan service match, actually just 4 fan service matches since season 3. I like the fact that I haven't overused him. I like doing him in the Royal Rumble just because it's a protected match. It was for a pop. It was for a moment in season 7, and it helped make season 7 my favorite Royal Rumble match of all time. Yeah, Mr. Samuel is a trailblazer to me. Armstrong. An argument can be made that he should be a trailblazer. The streak in of itself is just so good. His 8-0 undefeated streak had some classic bouts with Class Par. James Arlington alone was just so good. And now Sante Guerrero. Armstrong, the definition of the first big man, tearing through the competition and just winning titles left and right. I think as of season at the end of season 2, he had the most matches by a good bit. I think he had over 50 matches competed in just 2 seasons. From my statistics, unfortunately, I haven't caught up on my statistics. I'm on season 3 right now with that. Armstrong is a tough one. I think he would go as a Hall of Famer plus. I think he's on the cusp, on the outside looking in, of being the trailblazer. I think he's an easy Hall of Famer. It's not disputed to me that he should be a Hall of Famer. He's had so many iconic matches, so many to choose from. Of course, and Mr. Samuel, I'd highly recommend you check out the Royal Rumble Season 7 Rumble match. It was so much fun to do that, even if it was just for a short while. I love doing the Royal Rumble, and it's a nice way to protect legends, because it's not like you're coming back for a full-on match, and there's the pressure of, are they going to put on a 5-star classic? And in the Royal Rumble, you don't need to stress as much over that. You kind of can just do it as a fan service pop. To get the crowd off their feet for a legend. I think that's a more safer play, and I think I need to be more embracive of that and just be more fine with that. I don't know, though. I'm always torn on that. But duly noted, I will remember that. But in terms of, I think he's in that Hall of Famer category plus. I think he could be a trailblazer if there's the right argument made. I think he's an icon. It's as simple as that. When you think of the series, you think of these men up here in terms of big names. And Sante's on that, which is high praise. And now it leaves moi. I don't know. I don't want to sit here and be like, yeah, me Trailblazer. Pat myself on the back. I'll try to argue this objectively. As objective as possible. Matt King comes in. He's okay. He's just an alright guy. He was the first NXT Tag Team Champion along with Mr. Samuel. I think where Matt King started to grow was after the main event of WrestleMania 1. I think that's when it started to push him apart. He had the great matches, from decent to great, with Undertaker. He had the great match against The Rock. Seth Rollins had the dud against John Cena. The world title reign was kind of a failure, as well as the first WrestleMania, but that's besides the point. I think he had a massive recovery. He didn't do much in terms of WrestleMania matches. I mean, he fought Cena. When you look at Matt King, I mean, two WrestleManias where there was titles on the line, and maybe three matches with stories or a storyline, and two of them were the title fights. WrestleMania 3, he fought Class Par, helping build Class Par, putting him over. Season 4, Matt King fought, I'm talking about the character. Matt King fought the triple threat match. And I'm just talking about WrestleManias. Over time, he won the U.S. title. He had the tag team Mad Class. Mad Class, for anybody who thought that I didn't have the C and the L. I did pronounce the C and the L. I just said it quietly. I don't like cussing, so. I've had people who are like, you've said the A word before. No. And yes, I just said the A word. Because, if you've noticed, I've never sworn like that. Anyways, that's a minor thing. Matt King then had the amazing main event WrestleMania match against Cole Lee. Got cashed in on by Scott Cole. Had a really good season 7. Season 6 was okay. Really good match against James Arlington. Has the tenure, without a doubt, to be a Hall of Famer. This might be a self-pat on the back, but I think when it came to Matt King, he aged like fine wine, excluding the Season 7 WrestleMania match. His matches just kept getting better. And if I tried to tell you the list of matches where they were good to phenomenal, I'd be here all day. Just to name a few, just from Season 7 alone, the first match with Kevin Draco, Class Par, the whole trilogy of Class Par versus Matt King, the Elimination Chamber match of Season 7, several Elimination Chamber matches, as a matter of fact. John Cena 2 was pretty decent. Davis King match was actually pretty good. The match with Tyler Wolf was amazing. Gosh. There's a lot of matches to choose from. And even some of the matches in Mad Class, it felt like Class Par and him clicked when they fought Golden Glory. He's just found a way to constantly put on great bouts and was a must-see no matter what position on the card. So for me, that is probably going to be my list from Trailblazer to Jobber, every single custom wrestler, and this took 2 hours to do. Just want to point that out. Nonetheless, that's where I'd probably put everyone, and if you want me to do this list again at the end of Season 9, just to get my thoughts on where all the younger generation would probably be, I'd be more than happy to do that. This was a lot of fun. If you disagree or want to put you up your own rank, feel free to do it in the comments section because I'd love to see where you'd rank everyone, especially Panda, Alex, among several others who have been here from almost the very beginning, just to see where you guys would rank all these guys as well and see if there's any differences or there's variances on where you'd put someone. But regardless, hope you all enjoyed the video. Thank you for every single person who tuned in live. I greatly appreciate it. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel, of course, if you choose. But most importantly, and as always, suit up Mad Army. If there's anything else you'd like me to do, maybe like a trivia night as well, if you wanted me to come up with universe mode questions and you wanted to try to do like answers for them in the comments section or live, something like that, I could try to do that as well. Just like a trivia kind of show for you guys to enjoy. I don't know. I was kind of just brainstorming here. But regardless, thank you all for watching. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, of course, if you choose. But most importantly, as always, suit up Mad Army. I will see you all next time.